It's Friday.
Any flooding over there in California? I see like
Oh
people.
man.
You better get one of those
Yes,
rubber
there was.
rafts.
Yeah, there was definitely flooding. I saw flooding on the street, but not what what was on the news, like
Yeah,
up to the, you know, up above your door kind
yeah.
of flooding. But there was definitely some major flooding, and I saw like pretty bad accident. Um, Not happen, but there was a truck overturned.
Wow.
I guess the guys with like the big tires think that they don't realize they're flotation devices.
Yeah, that they're gonna hydroplane when they hit the water.
Yeah. Yeah,
Happens to everybody.
so I saw a truck that was overturned. Hopefully that person's okay. Yeah, so yeah, there's definitely flooding. We're supposed to get
Wow.
more rain. I think that's what
I
everybody's
can't
kind of
believe how
hoping.
much rain. It never rained there before.
Well, the one time, I mean, the time you're here,
Yeah,
that was a lot. You saw some street flooding. That
yeah.
was,
That's why I haven't been back. I'm like, I don't want to go there if it's raining. Um, so yeah, I took the Rivian on a trip to Vermont last weekend. It went pretty good. I didn't kill the battery. Um,
you
I
didn't.
and I was able to charge a Tesla Supercharger.
Oh, that's, exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it is for me because like
No,
they
I
just
know, I know.
work. There's not that many that have the Magic Dock right now, but there's one in Connecticut, the first one that opened in Connecticut, and I was able to
And that's
charge there.
Rivian's, right?
It'll work with any car, any vehicle.
No, I thought, okay, what I learned yesterday is you told me that Rivian has their own charging stations.
Well, Rivian does. They have their own. It's called the Adventure Network, and they have their own network of chargers, like the Tesla Superchargers. But there's
Yeah.
not as many. I mean, they're throughout Michigan. They're starting to move them. They're gonna have two in the Northeast, like opening within the next month or so. So there's gonna be one in Vermont and one in Massachusetts that I could have used, but they're not open yet. So I
Yeah.
had to rely on the Tesla Supercharger that has the Magic Dock that'll work with any vehicle.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's on the Connecticut border, so it isn't really that far. So I had to book it over there and charge as much as I could because of being in Vermont for a couple days with no way to plug in. Um,
So there's no way to plug in Vermont? Is that what you're
well,
saying?
yeah, there is, but not at the hotel. There was
Oh,
no charge at the hotel, so you gotta get up there with enough power to drive around for a couple days. Um,
yeah.
or without having to go to a charger. So then I visited a little charger on the way back that was in Vermont, just to top off, and it worked out well. I was like, I was just looking at it, but it's not a great situation. There's not like a lot of big Electrify America installations or anything like that in northern New England. So you got to
Yeah.
kind of like piecemeal chargers. You got to like make sure they're
That's
gonna
not
work when you
fun.
get there. Yeah, it's an adventure. You know how
Yeah.
with Tesla's too easy. They're everywhere. So,
Yeah,
but
I like that.
but it worked out well. It worked out well. So, all right. So one thing we wanted to talk about this week, a new feature that the EnGenius Cloud finally has is the ability to select which channels it's going to use for auto channeling. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so it gives you we'll just keep it simple. On 2.4 gigahertz, you always want to scan through. If you're scanning, you want to scan through 1, 6, and 11. You don't want to scan through all of them. So
Right.
this feature gives the opportunity to scan just 1, 6, and 11. You can also just choose a particular channel, and it will stay on that channel as well. Just so you're basically doing channelization through it too. But you have the choice. You can choose channels to scan through, or you can choose a specific channel.
So yeah. So if you have a device out there that is going to be on a certain channel. It's going to be like an access point from another vendor that's on a certain channel. You can avoid that channel altogether, right? So you can select it. I'll put up a picture of what it looks like. So you can see on the 5 gigahertz that what channels are available now. The DFS channels are all grayed out because it's going to use those, depending on how the scan goes, right?
Yeah.
So you can basically tell it to use or avoid the non-DFS channels. Um, Lock it to one. With 80 megahertz, you only have two channels at 5.8, and then the corresponding at 40 and 20. So you can select those.
Oh, that's money right there.
Yeah, we'll talk to them later. So you can select what channels to use or avoid now. But you can, that's for auto channeling only. You can manually select channels too.
Yeah,
Like
of course. Yeah, you have that option. So when you're set up in auto channel, that's when you can utilize choosing your channel to scan through. Otherwise, if you're not in auto channel, you choose a particular channel, then you're totally fine.
And you can do it on the
Yeah.
general tab there, where let's say if you locked it down to one channel, I think it makes you use two though, doesn't it? No,
What do you
it's
mean?
one. You can do one channel. So if you lock down to one channel, every single AP is going to be on that channel, which
That's right.
isn't desirable. Really, I mean, it doesn't cause interference. Don't be interference co-channel, but you're going to lose throughput on every AP if they're on the same channel.
That's right. Yeah.
So then you can also drill down into the access point menu and manually choose a channel for that access point there.
Yeah, so just to make sure, yeah, we're clear. So the setting we're talking about is in the global settings, right?
Yes.
Which is applied to like all the access points. And then you can go into the individual access points and then fine tune that particular access point with like channel width, minimum bit rate, transmit power,
Yep.
client limit, all these items, right? So
Yeah.
you can do that specifically on the AP itself.
And you can apply just certain SSIDs to the AP also. So you can be like,
Yep.
you could have three SSIDs in one access point. Let's say the access point in the garage only has that SSID, right? But it also carries the other SSIDs.
Right.
So you can drill down and make those kind of changes too. But this is just basically on auto channeling. And one other thing on auto channeling, like if you do have the access points that have the scanning radio, you can do zero weight DFS too. I was looking at that. That's been there.
Yeah. Yeah, you can utilize like the ECW 220S and the
Yes.
ECW 230S. Actually, I run the 230S at my house and I can, they also have a spectrum analyzer on there. I'll use that just to see interfering channels. But yeah, you can turn on zero weight.
Yeah, zero weight
Um,
DFS. So that means that a normal AP would have to go offline, scan the DFS channel, right, and make sure there's no like traffic on
Radar.
that channel, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then so we'd have to bring the radio offline, scan that channel, then jump onto the channel, right? With the zero weight, it uses a scanning radio to check those DFS channels ahead of time.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and I have a police department like real close to my house, so
yeah,
I haven't really had any issues. So
yeah. That's another reason to use the S versions, the 230S and the 220S. Like if you do have some sort of like police military installation near you, those S versions are gonna be helpful
yeah,
because you can
yeah, and
see.
you bring up a really good point because I just ran into that maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago where customer called and they called about roaming. There was a problem with roaming or there was a problem with like disconnections.
Yeah.
And so, investigating into that, it was actually radar detection.
It was radar. Okay, so
But they had the 220, I think, deployed, or maybe the 230. They didn't have the 230S, but we can still, obviously we can still detect that disruption. So we had to make sure that they were not on DFS in that particular case.
yeah. So you'll see in the log that it was basically channel change was requested or whatever, right, from the
Yeah, and it will call out radar.
they call it radar. So yeah, if you're in one of those situations, definitely look at those S versions that have the scanning radio. It's gonna make it a lot better because as you see on the channels here on 5.8, like there's a lot of DFS channels that can be utilized. But if you have like radar or something like that going on one of these channels, it's gonna be a bad situation and keep getting knocked off.
That's right.
All right. Anything else new this week you want to talk about?
I don't think so.
That's it? All right. Let's get to selling some stuff today. If anyone has any questions, ask them in the comments, and we'll be back next week. with another Wi-Fi